All right, welcome to episode 2 of the ExPack Podcast, featuring yours truly, Jacob, and
me, Dalton.
that guy. All right, yeah, it's been a week. That's putting it lightly. Worlds is happening. It's a thing.
Doing something.
As I don't want to say as expected to sound cynical, but as expected, NA did not make it out of groups.
Yeah.
Struggling for sure. Cloud9 and CLG were both looking strong, but as I suspected, they both did not perform this weekend, which is unfortunate.
They rolled over on their backs and just kind of.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, all right, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not going to play League of Legends anymore. They just kind of showed up and flopped, which is unfortunate, of course. Would have been nice to see them get farther, at least out of groups, obviously. But definitely some really strong showcases from some of the top teams for sure. EDG, Fnatic, Origin, all of them just showing up, doing well, and obviously SKT is there. I did my pick'ems, and I picked SKT over Fnatic in the finals. I think that I do really wholeheartedly think that that's how it will end up, is Fnatic versus them in the finals, and I think Fnatic will put up a good fight. I don't think that they'll be able to make it out alive, if you will. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this year of LCS was fun to actually watch EU, and I actually really enjoyed it. I've had high hopes for Fnatic. I don't really know why they struggled at all, to be honest, for how strong they showed in the regular season. But yeah, I mean, most of my picks are the same as yours.
Yeah.
I do think Origin actually has a really good chance if they play to their full potential. The problem is, I just feel like as soon as anybody has to go up against SKT
in a best of 5, that's my thing, is like playing SKT is one thing. Playing SKT in a best of 5 on a stage like that it's a daunting task, to put it lightly. I do think that if Origin comes in and plays their absolute hearts out, and I think it's very possible that they could win. I just think that if I was a betting man, I would put my money on SKT. It will definitely be a good set of games coming, because we haven't even started the quarterfinals yet, so it'll be a good set of games coming into the quarterfinals, and seeing how players have, especially the Chinese teams, they admitted that their pick bans weren't that great, but they've been discussing it and working on it, which clearly showed this last weekend because they did really well. But it'll be kind of interesting to see how that continues over into quarterfinals and even semis.
Yeah, the Chinese teams are always so weird. I don't really have much hope for them, to be completely honest with you. And the biggest reason isn't even really how they play. They have some really all-star players on their teams, but what it falls down to for me is when you're playing longer games, like if they ever get into a best of 5, you're looking at teams like Origin, who they can mess up, but they have their communication down.
Right.
Down. And one of the biggest problems a lot of the Chinese teams talk about is the communicating with their Korean players is just, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And in that sort of situation, there's so many games and so much that could go wrong that I feel like they're going to run into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. But then coming out of Worlds, and specifically for TSM not making it any farther, on Saturday, Dyrus stepped down, retired officially, which for me is heartbreaking. That's my boy. It's been my boy since the beginning. I'm a wholehearted TSM fan, have been for a long time. But I think it's a healthy move for him, and he is staying with the TSM brand. He's going to be streaming similar to what Odd One does. However, I think that, I mean, just in the last few days, Dyrus has had like anywhere from 35,000 to 50,000 viewers, which is incredible. Like, that's as much as some of the like EU LCS streams get. So clearly he has a big following, and I think he'll be really successful in whatever he does, staying in gaming. And I think it'll be cool to be able to watch him just kind of in his mode. On top of that, today was announced that my cat is on my nightstand. That Santorin has stepped down and is leaving TSM officially, and he's not gonna be pursuing from the way it was worded, it was kind of confusing, but it doesn't seem like he's gonna be pursuing a team, so he will just be kind of streaming, playing League a little bit, but he does kind of want to do some more school again, which, I mean, if that's his decision, that's what he wants to do, then good for him. And then Lust Boy is retiring from playing. However, I don't know if it was confirmed or not, but he's probably going to be an analyst for Korean LCS, which is, or not Korean LCS, whatever the Korean league is, LPL. What is it? I don't remember. So I think that is a lot for a team right now. They are supposed to play an IEM, San Jose. I forgot when that is, but I think so. They're holding tryouts for all three positions, so that'll be really interesting to see kind of what players they pick up to shape around. The only two people left, which is Bjergsen and Wild Turtle. Yeah. I saw a really funny tweet that was like, their TSM is now one turtle short of being actually team solo mid. So, but yeah, overall, I'm definitely not super happy about it, but that's okay. I just really hope that they're really thorough with who they pick up, and it's not just kind of like, oh, the first I don't want to say washed out, but the first like big name that comes to their team kind of thing. Like someone was talking about like TSM Meteos, so I'm like, please no.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's the Meteos thing. I wouldn't be surprised just because of his style of jungling, to be honest. Like, if TSM's never gonna like attempt to pick up some serious hard carries besides their mid, then that would fit. But I really think it's, for me, and I'm not a huge TSM fan, but for me, I think it's time they start changing what their identity is as a team if they want to actually like start pushing towards Worlds again. Like, yeah. I mean, I love this roster for a team. Like, they had a lot of great players, but it's still, you just see the whole, like, you know, they just use Bjergsen as a Reggie replacement and go for it, you know? And it's just, I think they should see that that's just not working for them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, with such a big change, I think it'll be really important for them to figure out who's shot calling, like who's going to be doing all the like actual logistic type things for the team when it comes from game to game, not just with the coaches and stuff like that. So,
and I think we see a lot of like disparity in the teams for NA. Like, that was the biggest difference for me comparing NA to EU this year, was their top teams, they played so well as a team. Like, there was never those moments where you point someone out, like, you know, it was like looking at a solo queue game, like, well, that guy got carried. Like, you never saw that. Like, you never saw, like, one guy that was, I mean, they had, you know, one guy that had all the money, but that's how league games go. You know, one guy's going to get most of the kills because of that momentum. But it was just so nice seeing them play in EU LCS because, like, as a team, they would crush people. And like, even teams that had carries across the board, like CLG, you didn't see that. You saw one person that once they saw, oh, he's the carry, he's got all the money, they would just focus everything on him. And I don't really think the Koreans play that way. Like, I mean, once they get momentum on a team, they focus it as a team and just, like, barrel through their teams.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's something that really NA needs to work on, because
they
focus so much about trading for the best players, and then they, you know, oh, we got Zion top. Let's let him carry, and then Double Lift doesn't have to worry about carrying. He'll become this late game monster. But then they shut down Zion, and it's like, well, there goes the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think NA has some definite work to do, kind of a long road ahead with the next season, and even some of the smaller events that are coming up. But yeah, I mean, that's most of. I mean, League right now is Worlds, and we're waiting to see. I think the next game is going to be on Thursday. Today's today's Wednesday, so it will be Friday then. So that'll be good.
I think the other thing is too, just real quick about League, is look how long it's been out. It's kind of time a new generation gets ushered in. Like,
absolutely.
I all respect towards Dyrus. I love him as a player. Love that guy. Like watching him play and everything. And he always caught a lot of flack because the team he was on, I feel like, when he was really good, didn't utilize him very well. And I think playing that way for so long can really wear on you. So I respect his decision of dipping out while his whatever legacy he has it's there. And it's just start taking more chances on some young talent, and you're gonna have to work on them, and they're gonna have to get good. But that's for any league. Like look at the NFL. You don't just they don't drop a guy in and he all of a sudden is a god. Like league has come to that point where it's been out
Russell Wilson. What?
Okay.
Huh? Oh, okay.
I know I shouldn't have got on there. I asked for that. I knew it was
Seahawks versus dinner. What are the dead horses? Anyways.
Yeah, backstory, I like the Broncos, and we all remember how that Super Bowl went, if anybody follows football.
And I'm a Seahawks fan.
We're just going to let that go and move on.
Anyways, right. Good times. But yes, no, I totally agree. I mean, look at Niels. We never decided how they pronounce it. Anyways, Niels, whatever. He's a rookie and he's been doing great. Which I mean, like we had Santorin and like he did well. Wasn't really. I wouldn't call him a top tier jungler. I think he did perform pretty well. Like in the season for sure. I'm not really sure if he performed in postseason, but. That definitely will be interesting to see what kind of people they pick up and how they work together and stuff like that. Because then you have the other teams like Renegades, the new team that has some new talent, and then it has like Crumbs, who's obviously a veteran player. And did they? Yeah, they did make it into the LCS, but then Maple Street did leave the team. So that'll be interesting who they pick up as well. I totally forgot about that, but I'm not a big fan of them because Monte Cristo. But anyways,
I'm not a big fan of Crumbs, so really.
I think Crumbs is a cool guy. I don't know if I've ever been a fan of him as a player, but I think he's a cool guy. It's been cool to see him. Like it's been really cool to see players that have moved into analysts and casters and things like that, like Crepo and whatnot. I think that's really cool because he's a really great guy, and it's kind of cool seeing that transfer of it's kind of what you would see in other sports like football, like we were saying. Like it happens a lot with players that then end up being casters and stuff like that. So it's really cool. But separately, I mean, in the esports scene. Was announced today that Guild Wars 2 is getting its own ESL Pro League with 400 grand plus in prizes, which is kind of a big deal. If you don't really follow Guild Wars or play it or whatever, I mean it's definitely a big MMO, but it's not the biggest out there. This is kind of a big deal because there is a lot of focus in the game for PvP. And it's kind of exciting for me as a PvP player primarily that to see this, because it's like this is a fairly veteran game at this point, and to see it getting kind of a boost in the competitive side of it is pretty exciting. It'll be nice to see if it really does get bigger as far as viewership and sponsors and whatever else stuff like that. I mean, I never expect it to be like LCS level, but I think it definitely could be up there because it is a really good PvP game. It really is. And I think ESL is doing a good move, putting this on and making sure that this happens, because, I mean, it's always nice to see games that aren't just the same game, like, other than Counter-Strike, StarCraft, and League of Legends, and Dota.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those are, like, the big four. I think it's kind of nice to see other games getting, prize pools and incentives, and so then, people that are really good at those games have a chance to really make it in a competitive scene.
And I think it's smart too. I mean, in a business model setting, like, I think it's good for MMOs to focus on PvP purely for the money. Like,
right.
Especially with a lot of MMOs moving away from subscriptions, if you can make a really solid PvP experience and put on tournaments, like, that's more money in their pocket to make more content, and they don't, that's less work they have to do on expansion packs and all this other stuff.
Right.
I think that's something that more MMOs should look at. Looking at that, because you can implement a really good PvP experience without hurting the PvE experience if you have the time to make it a balanced game.
Right.
So I think it's a good move overall.
Yeah, for sure. And then something else I actually forgot about was we talked about last week the G2A and Riot controversy thing, and G2A did publish a response. Basically, they called it, I don't remember exactly what the wording was, but basically along the lines of heavy-handed and aggressive, and that it pretty much what we said, that it was kind of a power play from Riot because they want to control that as best they can. And so I think that was really interesting that they just straight up just kind of voiced their opinion on it, and they were just kind of like, hey, like, this was really interesting, like, to have a response like that from Riot. But I mean we talked about it last week that it kind of makes sense what Riot did, but I think it'll be interesting to see how, like, if G2A doesn't, like, I don't know, I haven't visited the site, so I still don't know if they've made any changes or if they plan on it or anything like that. So yeah,
it's kind of awkward still, because it's like the move that Riot made sense if the behind the scenes context was there.
Mm-hmm.
If they just straight up, like,
which is interesting regarding this response from G2A, is that they were kind of like, oh, this was super aggressive and heavy-handed, and I'm wondering if that meant that Riot didn't really try to reach out to them firsthand, or if this is their way of trying to make Riot seem like the bad guy in the situation.
Right. I was about to say, if Riot has a good amount of the community firing back on them for it, then G2A, I mean, why wouldn't they just agree with the community and be like, screw those guys,
Yeah,
but
and it could be just good
if they
publicity.
didn't take down that content, then they're honestly, as a business for G2A, that's pretty stupid if you ask me. Like, oh, wait, companies don't like it when we abuse their systems like that, so maybe if we want to get sponsored, we shouldn't have that. Like, either way, it should be taken down. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they can make a power play back against Riot in reality.
Right.
Like, no matter what they do, Riot is huge.
Yeah, at this point, Riot's a monster company in the gaming world for sure. So
for one game, too.
yeah, I think that's which is really crazy. But I think that'll be kind of interesting to see if anything develops from that. I kind of doubt. I'm pretty sure it'll just be something that fizzles out and we'll forget about it. But you never know. So apart from that, we talked about last week the Witcher expansion, and that did come out this week for a low price of $10, which I think is really cool, even though I don't play the game. That would be like something I would look at and be like, oh, okay, $10 for an expansion, count me in. But you do play the game, and have you played it yet?
Well,
I don't even know.
Yeah, I messed up. So when I knew the expansion was coming out soon, I started a new playthrough so that you could experience everything else, etc., and I was like, New Game Plus, this will make the difficulty balance out a little bit. So hardest difficulty, New Game Plus. It was great. I was having fun. I was catching up. Got like maybe a third of the way through the story, and then the expansion comes out and it gives you a quest, which tells you where to go for the expansion.
Right.
And I look at it and it's like level 65, 63, something like that, and I'm sitting at level 40, so there's no possible way I could even attempt to do the quest. But I mean, I've read reviews on it, and honestly, it's kind of funny how it works out because, like, the expansion is supposed to be clocked in at 10 hours just for the main stuff, and every single review raves about how the story element of it is almost better than some of the quests in the main game.
Wow.
So they already accomplished what you would want from an expansion in a story-based game. Good story, it's cheap, and you get what you pay for.
Right.
And yet, there are still people that will complain about, like, is it really an expansion?
Oh,
So
right.
I understand that like used to expansions were like this big chunk of game you got, but for $10 and the history we've had with DLC being overpriced, like how can you scoff at that?
That's what I would say to that is, okay, so even if it's not a traditional expansion, it is still a DLC that clearly has quality content for only $10. And I think with the average price of DLC being $20 plus, I think that's a really good asset like to have.
And the thing I love, and I wanted to kind of talk about this, and like you know, because we're in a weird time right now with games where AAA games are kind of, I mean, to put it lightly, they're screwing over a lot of gamers. Like it's in a really weird place. Like most gamers feel like you're not really getting your game's worth whenever you buy a new game these days.
Right.
And just to throw some numbers out there, CD Projekt Red, who made The Witcher, all three of them, they openly published how much the game cost and how much they made off the game. Basically in a way to justify, like, which they didn't really have to at all, to justify the full price of the game, how long the game was, just to put everything out there. And they said it cost them $81 million to create and promote the game over 3.5 years, which is a lot of money. And I mean, it shows in the game. It's a very well done game. But just in the first 6 weeks, the game paid for itself and gave $62.5 million profit. Like,
that's crazy.
And this is a company that gave out free content, free patches, and everything, and then they make the expansions this cheap. Like, how is nobody looking at this and saying, wow, you know, maybe we should do more stuff like that? Like, how much more money are AAA titles making?
Yeah, no, totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the Call of Duty and whatnot.
Yeah, if they're already making that much money and then they build this amazing fan base because their game's great and they treat their people right, like, I'm curious to see how much AAA titles really make in profit, because if they're being that greedy with it, like, they must be, you would assume, banking. I mean,
yeah.
How many people still buy those games? But it's weird. I just don't understand why we can't have more companies like that. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, and I do understand that. I'm not saying she's like, oh, just put a game out, you know.
Right.
But still, you know, the more you respect your fan base, the better your games will sell in the future too.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's a really good example of someone or a company that's doing it right now. So it'll be kind of interesting to see more feedback on that, and maybe if they get kind of a spotlight, I guess, for what they're doing with that game and with that series in general, as well as any other games that they're working on. Which have they said anything about any other games right now?
They have one other game they're working on, and it has a ways to go. I believe it's called Cyberpunk 2077.
Right. We talked about that briefly. Okay.
I think I got that right.
Yeah, something like that.
Which, I mean, we don't know anything about it, literally, except that it's like
the CGI cutscene. Yeah.
Yeah, Cyberpunk world, you know. But they did say that a lot of the reason the game hasn't made any public progress or anything is because they wanted to take the technology they had for The Witcher 3, the open world and everything, and really implement it and make it feel the same. With, you know, they wanted to create a world, and they didn't want to do another, you know, like Witcher 1 and Witcher 2 were these very narrow linear games, and then have an open world. Like, they want to start out like that with this game. So,
right. Do it big for the first one. That's good.
Which I can understand.
That's cool, yeah. So I guess, yeah, we'll just have to keep in with that, and if you ever do get a chance to play it, we'll find out what you think about it. But yeah, so then another thing is that Destiny, so they announced. They're not in the game yet, right? The microtransactions, like it's for emotes and stuff like that. Are they in the game?
I believe they are.
Okay, I don't play Destiny because I don't have a console. But you know what? Actually, I think no, I don't remember. But anyways, so they're adding, regardless of if they're there yet or not, they are adding or have added microtransactions into Destiny.
I think it came out yesterday.
Okay, and they are expensive, from what I understand, or at least not what people expected.
Yeah, it's...
And you're paying for emotes and things like that?
Yeah, they also have boosters. They kind of did with the WoW thing.
Right.
But, you know, which it's not as drastic because WoW was pretty damn drastic. Like, I mean, you bought the booster.
Right,
And you
yeah. And you were level 90. Right, I did that. I'll admit it.
Well, yeah, but I believe we got them free with our...
Right, no, that's true. We did get it because of the expansion that was coming out and to play a new character. But yeah. So, and I guess people are kind of mixed about this. Like, obviously, they're like, it's kind of cool. Like, they're adding new stuff to the game. Cool. But, and some people will always, like, be there to support microtransactions. And there's always people in the games that have no problem paying whatever money for whatever thing comes out for it. Which is fine and good for them. But there is definitely some people that are kind of looking at this and going, like, what the heck? Like, what is Bungie doing? And this is right after Bungie already admitting that with the new expansion, that sometimes even when you win, it can feel like losing, I think was pretty much what they said about it. So I just wonder, like, where they're planning on going with Destiny and how much content they're really planning. Simply because, as someone that plays Warframe pretty regularly and has sunk a good amount of time, 200 plus hours into Warframe, and a game like that is free to play. Yes, it does have microtransactions, absolutely. None of which are required or anything like that, but they're adding new content fairly regularly, and majority of it you can get just by playing the game. Quests, new storylines, new frames as they're called, weapons, everything like that. And so I just look at that kind of thing and look at its model and just wonder how long Destiny is really going to make it. Also because of, like, past with what was that? Was that who was it that made the MMO that was like the shooter? And I cannot remember what it was called. But it was like an open world first and third person shooter, and it was made by a big company, and now it's free to play, and it's just
APB?
No, not APB. It's like a space one, and I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, jeez, I don't.
But it was made by a pretty big producer, and I'm completely spacing on it right now. But and that has just turned into a free-to-play game, just riddled with microtransactions because they just want you to pay. But yeah, well, you do play Destiny, so
yeah. I think a big problem with Destiny, and it's really awkward. They had like this big plan and this big scope that, you know, all that got leaked about, you know, how their expansions are going to work, yada yada, and I mean, that's another very good example of paying a lot of money for a quote-unquote expansion when there's not that much content. Mm-hmm. I mean, because it has an MMO type feel, the game, you know, if you got, for instance, Crota's End, which in my opinion was the worst expansion they've had, you still got a couple months of gameplay if you really wanted to play it, because you had to get your loot, you had to deal with raid resets, you know, all that, which all MMOs deal with.
Right.
But I think the biggest problem with them going to microtransactions now is it's like, with the Taken King, they kind of set it up as, oh, we're fixing our expansions. Our expansions are going to be bigger, better, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it really wasn't. It fixed a lot about the game, and it was leagues over the other expansions, but they charge so much for it. Like, so it doesn't really balance out anything.
Right.
And then on top of that, now they add microtransactions. if they wanted to go the microtransactions route after they realized expansions weren't working, then that would be one thing. But people have now sunk in money for the original game. They've sunk in money for 2 small expansions that equal together almost the original game. And now the Taken King, which is almost as expensive as the original game. Like, you've basically bought 3 games from Bungie already. And then they put in microtransactions. Like, at this point, if they started dropping content that wasn't free, they're going to piss people off no matter what. Like, plus, it's on consoles only, and consoles take a subscription. So you're technically still paying a subscription because you have to pay for Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus. That's so much money for the amount of content that they're putting in. And I realize they don't get any of that subscription money, but the consumer still pays that.
Yeah.
And I honestly, the thing about Destiny that pisses people off the most is because you want to love the game because the game itself is great. The combat's great. Like, the systems they set up, they were riddled with making it overcomplicated, but the base logic behind it was great. Like, you had your character, you worked towards your gear, and it was just fun. It felt like a merge of Halo. I kind of loosely want to say a little bit of Borderlands, not really. It's mostly Borderlands just because of the, like, skills that you had, like your super or whatever. And then, the MMO feel. And honestly, that sounds on paper really hard to mess up, and they're doing their damnedest to just make it worse and worse. Like, and that's why people are so mad about it. It's like, just imagine having a great game that can be great, and the people behind it are just not handling it well. So I think that's where a lot of the anger comes from.
Yeah, and I guess my thing will just be interested. I'll have to look into, like, if they have the numbers out there for their player base and seeing, like, what I'm expecting to see is there was probably a decline, and then the expansion, the Taken King, came out and it spiked up, and then I would be interested to see how it's going now, to see if it's kind of stayed or if it's kind of dropped. But I think overall, I feel like almost this was kind of an experiment for Bungie, to see a not Halo, like, basically, because they've done other projects and I don't know of any that have really been that successful, which is fine. Like, if you're good at something, stick to it, right? But it'll be kind of interesting to see how Destiny continues to roll out things.
Well, and they wanted to plan this whole thing to scale 10 years. Like, they wanted Destiny to last 10 years, which is a good thing. And if you look at it, really, the game hasn't been out that long. But it just...
Well, but that's the thing, though. So it's is it been out 2 years now? Or a year and a half?
Yeah, we're in year 2 now.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
That's what they call it, is year 2
Right.
Destiny.
But I think it has been almost, at least close to 2 years. And people have already had to pay that much money. So if you look into that, I kind of doubt that they're planning on releasing this much content every 2 years. But if they are, like, people are going broke.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, that's literally the thing. If they want to make that 10-year goal, it doesn't have anything to do with how much, like, they just have this complete, their balance is completely off. The content they create would be fine if it was cheaper.
Right.
Because then they could just watch their numbers drop down, and then they would come back up, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But instead, it's like they want to constantly have content come out in little bitty chunks and then charge you like crazy. So either drop the price or up the content, and they're gonna start winning. Like, they will start.
Because that's the thing with MMOs, like World of Warcraft. Like, yeah, they release a lot of expansions, but there's time in between them for people to kind of get bored, I guess, which obviously isn't their intention. They don't want you to get bored of their game, but people are bound to get bored of a repeatable game like that. So people get bored, and then they see this big expansion come out, and it's this huge thing, and they've already waited 2 years for it, or they waited, a year and a half for their announcement, and then another year for it to actually come out, and so they're excited about it at that point, right? And then they're willing to pay, $50-$60, whatever it is at that point. Whereas Destiny, it seems like they're just kind of like, all right, we'll take this, and you're gonna pay this much money for it, and people are like, well, okay, I hope it's good, kind of thing. So,
but see, that's the thing. Like, WoW, I never feel bad about buying an expansion because even though I know I'll stop playing eventually, I'm paying whatever the price of the expansion is, and I know it's going to last me till this set of time, and then there will be a patch, and there's a new raid, and I can do this. And all that extra stuff will be free. And Destiny doesn't do that. They just slap you with the content, and then you finish it, and then they're like, well, wait for the next one. and then it's super expensive again. And they've only been around for, like you said, like 1.5, 2 years or something.
Yeah.
Like, WoW's been around for freaking ever, so now they can just give you all the other content for free. Like, come back for this expansion, and we'll give you everything else for free, and like, you feel okay about that. But Destiny, just their business model is absolutely horrible.
Yeah, which clearly WoW and Destiny are two totally different games, but they have fairly similar aspects as far as expansions and things like that, repeatable content. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, that'll be interesting to see where Destiny goes and how Bungie is planning on looking at feedback and how they're going to roll things out. Yeah, you would hope so. Big company like that. But another thing is, let's see. So The Witcher, or no, sorry, I meant Metal Gear. So
the only thing worse than Destiny's business model.
Okay, so they had the expansion, or not expansion, what is it called? What is it considered? Is it considered? No, they just added online. That's right. They just added online play. So what is it that they're doing exactly?
Okay, well, and I know you haven't played the game, so I'm gonna, like, there's two types of online play in Metal Gear. There's the part that shipped with the game originally, I think, or at least as soon as the servers went up, which is FOBs, which is basically your base building component. You have a separate online base, which can give you more resources to make your stuff than single player. And the way it works is it's a 1v1 situation where you can invade somebody else's base, take their stuff, he can find you and kill you and stop you, and etc., etc. And it originally wasn't that bad because the only microtransaction in the game was you have your FOB, so it's like a base, imagine, and you put your stuff in it, whatever. And then if you wanted extra ones so that you could have more storage and more of everything, pretty much, you could pay some money and get another one. Wasn't necessary, didn't really affect the PvP in any way whatsoever. It was just there if you wanted more resources to craft stuff, pretty much. That's it.
Yeah.
So that was fine. You whatever. And then what ended up happening is that's the first type. The other one's MGO, which has no effect on any of this. That's completely different. But so what they did now, for some reason, before you could turn online, you could select in the menu, turn it off, and that meant like you could still get invaded, I believe, for FOBs, but all your stuff in your single player base was alone. It was separate. Right. So they couldn't take your, you wouldn't log on and, wow, I have nothing. Like, that was never going to happen. So the first thing they did, and you'll see the problem with this right away, they moved everything to online. So now all your resources are together, which means somebody can take whatever they want. That can happen while you're offline. That's already forcing people that enjoyed it as a single player game to be pissed off. Like, they don't want to.
So what if, well, I guess, yeah, wow, okay.
That's messed up as it is. But then when you see the reason they did it, they implemented another microtransaction where you can buy insurance with real money so that you're covered for a set amount of weeks, and if people invade you and they take your stuff, they just replace it.
Oh my
gosh. So not only does the guy get the stuff for free when he invades you, which completely, like, there's no point in having a ranking system at that point, because then people just get free stuff, because anybody that buys insurance, like, they don't care about their stuff, they ignore it. Right? So it replaces your stuff, whatever. Now you don't lose resources, but all this could have been avoided by just not forcing people to play it. So they're just forcing people to try and make money. Like, nothing else needs to be said about that to say that it's just bad in every way.
That's pretty ugly.
In a AAA title that has had a fan base and players since, when did the first Metal Gear come out? Like,
I don't even know.
90s, early 90s?
Way too long.
Like,
make me feel old.
Like, there's no question to me whatsoever why Kojima left the company now. Like, whatsoever. Like, he made this entire thing, and Konami just literally took a dump on it.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That, like, it's pretty clear what their intentions were behind that, and that's the problem. Like, there's almost no question that they just did it to make more money, and that's unfortunate.
And the pricing, protection for 2 weeks is like 300 of their, I think it's MB coins. So, like, you need 300 of those coins in order to get 3 weeks of protection. the only way you get coins for free, because, you know, they have like their, oh, you can get coins for free by playing the game. You get, like, maybe 5 for random dispatch missions you send your guys on. Like, nobody's gonna play the game enough to get that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate for sure. As an outsider, like, that would be something that would just basically put me off from playing the game. I'd be like, well, that's kind of lame. Yeah.
Well, I mean, most people have just straight up said, like, I'm just uninstalling the game. Like, I'm just done. Yeah. Because they beat the single player component, and like what replayability was there is now gone because they don't want to have to.
Is there a way to turn on, like, just not have your system online and still play single player?
I would assume so. I mean, for a console, I mean, like, logically, if it's not online.
Yeah, you would think so. So that, I mean, that, I feel like, which is so ridiculous nowadays that, like, you would have to even resort to that.
Think about PC. You're not going to unplug your PC from the internet that you play a game through on Steam to keep people from getting into your shit. There's posts on the Reddit of people talking about uninstalling, like, certain files from the game cache that you have to find just to try and stop it, and then putting up firewalls and stuff so that the game...
Oh my gosh.
Like, people have gone to this extent to try and fix this already.
That's crazy. But yeah, that's, I mean, man, I don't even know, like... That would frustrate me beyond belief. Like,
I'm just happy I pretty much got done with the game single player part, like, way before any of this happened. But it's still, like, it keeps me from wanting to go back and play it. I mean,
yeah.
So
that sucks.
Pretty sad.
Yeah. There's just more examples of people just, or not people, but well, I mean, I'm sure there's people at the companies, but companies just wanting to milk their customers as much as they can, which is unfortunate. And it just doesn't, like, a lot of the time it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this is, like you said, it's a franchise that's been around forever and has so many fans, and I'm sure that there's very few of them that are happy about this. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Another thing we have is Star Citizen, which I just saw a little bit about this, and their budget, I don't know if primarily...
Ridiculous budget.
I don't know if I'd say primarily to the voice acting, but definitely a large chunk of it is going to voice acting, and so they're kickstarting it, and so it's being, who is it being produced by again?
The game itself?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't remember which studio.
I don't remember who it is either.
I only just briefly saw that there was what's his name? Oh my goodness.
Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman was in, like, some speech. And I didn't even watch the thing. I just saw an article about it. And I didn't really think of anything of it. And I was just kind of like, okay. Because I think I got Star Citizen mixed up with a different game. But
it's Cloud Imperium is the developer and publisher. Okay. Which is why they were kickstarted.
Right.
Because, I mean, you know. Right. But, okay.
Okay.
They made so much money off their Kickstarter, and so much money off of, like, they were like rewards for kickstarting, I believe, and then there were also, you could actually purchase, it was like pre-purchasing ships in the game. Which is weird saying out loud, but
is it multiplayer?
Yeah, you know how EVE Online basically
is?
Is?
Okay.
Think about that, but with everything you would actually want from it. So, like, it's a first-person shooter. it's a sandbox economy built into it. Like, you can do whatever you want as far as just they talk about, you can be like the spaceship of airliners and just fly people around for money, basically. So they're trying to make an entire universe to play in. So it's an MMO first-person shooter with that economy EVE type style gameplay. It's everything wrapped into one, and it also has a single-player campaign. And that's what most of the voice acting is going to. It has all this stuff. It's like one of the most ambitious games to be talked about. And the weirdest thing is that most of their money came from crowdfunding, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean a ton. And like I said, now you can pre-purchase like ships in the game to where when the game comes out, you just get the ship, and people are paying hundreds of dollars for these. So I mean,
so there's definitely hype behind this project,
tons of hype for basically every person that likes space games. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of them came from the Eve community too, because that game's been around forever. I'm sure they're ready for something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it kind of baffles me when I think about it, like how much money these people made, and then like the stats I read about The Witcher and like that game and how much it cost them. Like it shouldn't happen.
Right. So I wonder if this is going to be now going to be a bigger trend of crowdsourcing big titles. Obviously not AAA, but there's still it's still at this point it's going to be a big title. Like, this is going to be something that people play and people talk about. So I just wonder if I just don't want to see it be where big companies decide, okay, we're going to tell people we're coming out with another Call of Duty and we're going to see if they're going to kickstart it.
Oh god.
That would suck to see that, because those companies don't need that at all. They're going to make their money back tenfold just by putting Call of Duty on the name. But I think for smaller studios and stuff like that, I think it could be a pretty viable option to make. Because I mean, I've seen Kickstarters and I've backed Kickstarters for small games, but none of them have been quite as big as this seems like it's going to be. So it's pretty cool to see it kind of take that next leap up.
Yeah, well, it's cool as long as they deliver on it.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not the type of person that when the game comes out on that scale that I would be like, oh, I expect it to be perfect because I backed it and everything like that. Like, it's still, if they're doing something that hasn't been done before, you should expect some problems. You know what I mean? People, what was it, the first Elder Scrolls to be the first person, huge world, that was buggy as hell, and it should have been expected as such. But after the game's fixed, you still want something solid to be there. And for all the money that's been thrown at them, I mean, this is a studio that really hasn't done anything, major. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, they don't really have huge games out. But I understand that part, why they went to crowdfunding, because if you don't have your name out there already, you know what I mean, you're never going to get a game made.
Yeah.
But a small company like that is now hiring Gary Oldman.
That's yeah, definitely.
I would probably like to see some of the game first, but cool, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that progresses and what it looks like what the game actually looks like, instead of just what they're planning on doing with it, kind of thing. So yeah. Another thing you have here is Capcom competitive shooter in the same sentence.
Have you not heard of this?
No, I have not. So this is news to me.
Oh, what is the name of it's Umbrella something.
Okay. Possible Resident Evil tie-in?
No, it is.
Oh.
It 100% is.
Okay.
It is based in the Resident Evil Umbrella Corps. There you go.
It's lit. Okay.
And it is a third-person, over-the-shoulder. I don't know how many people exactly per game mode, but we're gonna say 5v5 standard tactical shooter, and it includes zombies and everything.
So Rainbow Six /
yeah.
Gears of War.
They have gameplay out of it.
Oh, I should probably watch that at some point.
And it is the most confusing thing I have ever seen a game company try to do ever. No. And it's funny because I remember the other day you linked me that what was the name of that?
Oh, the new Moving
Hazard.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
That whole article was talking about how other games put zombies in as a backdrop in multiplayer shooters, and then you have Capcom. And literally in the gameplay, this guy will do slides on the ground between a zombie's legs, okay? Because the zombie's literally just standing there doing this. God. And I'm just sitting there thinking, why? Why? And,
yeah.
The gameplay footage is even weirder because instead of talking about what's going on in the game and explaining how the game works, It's like they had two shoutcasters talking about the round through the entire video.
It's interesting. And this is like the first like real anything that we've seen from this, or
pretty much, yeah. Like, I don't know if it's the same studio that did it, but do you remember Operation Raccoon City?
yes.
That was their other multiplayer
Okay. Right.
thing that failed and disappeared and nobody cared about. And like that one actually had some hype just because they put out all these trailers and everything and they built it up, and then the gameplay was just terrible.
Right.
But I mean, what is with the competitive shooter hype train right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like, we don't really know very much. Like, do we even know if it's gonna be if it's free, if it's like, are you gonna pay for it? Like, we don't really know any of that right now, I guess. So, I think I like seeing companies try to do new things with their IPs. I liked Halo Wars. I liked Spartan Assault. I don't like just for that, for some reason Halo is on my mind right now. Like, they've done different things with their games and it's been good in the same universe. It hasn't been as good, obviously. I think my thing is this their wait. So I wonder if this is because we talked about the fact that they said that RE7. Wait, what did they say? Let me see if I can find it.
So like, what was the exact words he says? To stay tuned.
Yeah, he said stay tuned. So there's no way that this is Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. This is their Resident Evil 7. But so then maybe this is the project that's pushing it back? Like, so then is this
that I would believe?
Is this gonna be worth it for them to even put this game out? I mean, obviously there'll be some people that are like, oh sweet, but didn't they did in Resident Evil, was it 5 where you had to pay for the multiplayer?
No.
Or was it 4? One of them. Wasn't it one of the Resident Evils and you had to pay and it was like a
5 didn't have any multiplayer outside of the co-op.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I thought it was one of them that you had to pay.
There was a Resident Evil Online that was you paid to play online, I believe.
Maybe
that was a hell of a long time ago.
I don't remember, but I think that they're just I feel like what they should do is like put out a beta of this, have people get their hands on it, and then if people say this sucks, I'm never gonna pay for this, then they'll be like, oh, okay, well, whatever, let's just focus on the actual Resident Evil, like Resident Evil 7. I don't think that'll happen. I think that they're gonna get as many people to pay for it as they can before
pretty much
they can back out.
Every article I've read of people that have played the game had the exact experience I did just watching the game be played when they came away from it. Like, everybody's like, well, the moving around, the shooting, everything felt great, and it was fun when you won a game, but in context, everything else in the game made no sense. Like, everybody said, like, it's fun, it's fast-paced, and it's kind of stupid. Because, like, there's just... Why are the zombies there?
Right.
Why? And I mean, that's something, of course, they could explain later on. I'm not saying that it's going to be complete crap before I've actually seen more of it. But it's just... Capcom literally never makes any sense to me. The things they do is just so backwards. Like... I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But I would agree with you that, if anything... The reason he said stay tuned is, well, we're working on this right now and we're going to get that out. But then, you know.
All right. Then we'll take a look. So, I mean, yeah, I guess we'll just have to see what, because I don't know, was it anyone like that you recognize that was playing the game, or was it just
people?
No,
I haven't seen any, like, footage of, streamers or anything.
Yeah, I think that'll be which is kind of interesting how that's kind of turned into a thing, but like seeing what big names in gaming like actually think about it.
I think it's great.
Because I do because a lot of the time it tells me, okay, well, maybe I don't really need to buy this, but just seeing what their thoughts are on like the gameplay itself, because they never have like unless if they're sponsored by Capcom, they're not going to have any like other intention. They're just going to play the game and they're going to be like, well, this is fun, but it's not really going to be worth it. Or they'll be like, this is amazing and I can't wait. So it'll be interesting to see more responses from just people playing it and stuff like that. And then obviously as they just released more information in general on it. So you know.
I just think it's like the main part that's odd to me is when I think competitive shooter, your plan is to support the game externally, you know, by having it be competitive.
Right,
you know?
right.
Like MOBAs don't get, I mean, there's more casual MOBAs, but the serious like type of MOBAs like League and everything, like they knew, you know, that had to have been planned before they just kickstarted LCS randomly and started that. You know, like that's what they wanted to do. So you build your game like that because that's how your game's gonna make money. Same thing with Counter-Strike. Same thing with even Call of Duty now. Like they don't, you know, the campaign was never anything special. Like they pump the games out to sell to kids to play a multiplayer, and then they still get sponsored at MLG tournaments and things like that. What the hell is a Resident Evil competitive shooter gonna get? Unless the gameplay is absolutely mind-blowing, it has no place. Like it's just gonna be something they throw out, hope it sells okay, and then, because I'm sorry Capcom, but the days are long gone where you can slap Resident Evil on a box and people will buy it.
Right.
Like that doesn't work very well anymore. It does for fans of the series because they want to see how bad the game is, but
yeah, so that'll definitely be interesting to see how that kind of evolves and what information they actually give us early on. But I guess you kind of mentioned it, that there was a new game announced, I guess, some information where it's a multiplayer shooter where you can then control zombie hordes, and their thing is they understand that zombie games might be getting stale for people, and just, you know, the zombie trope in general might be kind of overplayed, but they just wanted to do something new, and so it's a small studio that's working on it, and I think it's a pretty interesting idea as far as, you know, just a new way to do it, because it's like you said, like in Resident Evil, it appears that the zombies are just there just to say that there's zombies there, kind of thing. Whereas this seems like they're taking a shooter that seems like it's going to have some tactical pieces to it, and then adding zombies, but not just to add them, but have them actually be tools to progress how the game works and things like that. So I think that's kind of interesting. We don't know a ton on the game right now, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's smart to me, just in the big picture, because, you know, yeah, it can be kind of janky when it comes out because they're doing something new. Like if I'm playing a shooter and it's a tactical shooter, like could you imagine just being able to like throw a zombie grenade, then you have to worry about all these ads that can get you.
Yeah.
Like, that's adding some serious new gameplay into a competitive shooter. But on the other hand, if literally it's just a wave of zombies you have to shoot in the head to get to the guy that you want to kill, just
definitely, it'll definitely be interesting to see like how it actually works, kind of thing, in the systems. I picture, for me, it would be cool, like, you know, the Overlord games where like you control the minions. I picture like that, but like with zombies, obviously, and like having different types of zombies maybe to be able to control and have them do things, and then having obviously guns. So, but I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you could even have some, I hate to say this, but MOBA-like ideas, just because like say
objectives.
There's a wall or something that, you know, you have your base or whatever, and you're having your death match, and then they get the power up to send zombies to knock down the wall. Well, then you have the option to kill the zombies and stop the wall from going down. Like that's all things that would make the game refreshing because it can be different every time.
Right.
Like I can see that working very well.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye out for and see how it comes out. But so we played Star Wars Battlefront beta.
Yep.
It's Star Wars.
I mean,
it's everything I asked for. It's Star Wars. That's it. But no.
See, for me, that's a negative and a positive, though.
I loved it. Partially, and I mean, I'm gonna probably just go out on a limb here and say it's probably mostly because I'm a fanboy. But I think that part of what sells it for me is just the fact that it feels so epic and it feels so Star Wars. Like especially the Hoth one, where like you're in this huge open Hoth environment, and there's fighters flying over you, like shooting each other, and there's walkers going on, and then you're just like, it just feels so epic. Like it's just this huge scenario where all this stuff is going on. It's a little hectic, it is.
It should be though.
But yeah, I mean, with that scale, and I think their horde mode, I can't remember what it's called, but it's kind of like a horde mode, is pretty cool because it's a little bit different than just defend this spot, shoot things. Right. Like you actually have to do things, and there's different types of enemies and stuff like that. So that'll be kind of cool to see more levels on that, and then obviously more experiences with the multiplayer, and then also, but I think a big thing for us is progression, like how does, like, unlocks and things like that, which we saw some of in the beta. I got the sniper rifle, which was super dope because I love just headshotting people, but and then I guess you couldn't do it in the beta, but they definitely, like, you could see it in the menus, was like character customization. So it'll be really interesting to see how, like, the scope of how many things, how hard it is to actually get to them, and if I honestly would like to see a system like Call of Duty's, where you can prestige and start over, because otherwise it just gets so bland. Like,
once you get to the top, you're done.
You get to the top, and then it's just kind of like, okay, well, now I have everything that I need. What else is? Now I just play the game, which is fine. Obviously, like, if the game's good enough, you're gonna play it. But I would love to see, like, a prestige type thing where you unlock everything and then you can start from zero again, because then it just gives you something to work for. It gives you a sense of accomplishment, kind of thing.
Have some bonuses too for the prestige people.
Right,
you have the character customization to already give them a uniform that you only get for prestige level 1, 2, 3. You know, that's super easy to do, and the thing that's important to me about that is because games like Battlefront, Battlefield, all the DICE games, they have a very limited skill ceiling as far as individual play goes. Like, especially this one, because, I mean, and it's just the way it works. It's not something to complain about.
Right.
They're lasers, man. Like, they don't fall off.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. That's the way the game should be. But I'm just saying, you know, there's only so much you can do with that. The game requires your team to be good in order to win a match, unless somehow you get in an AT-AT and just completely, like, for some reason the other team groups up and you wipe them all.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, in that regard, having a rank system isn't going to work. It can't be competitive, really, and it shouldn't be, because it takes away from the fun of that style of gameplay. But what it should have is the type of rank system that shows time played and how much you love the game and how much you put into it.
Because you still want to work towards something. Like, you don't want there to be, you know, I mean, everybody wants to be rewarded for what they're doing, especially in video games, and whether that's achievements or whatever. Like, we see it everywhere. So I think that'll definitely be a big chunk of what we're looking for with that game is going to be how we can progress.
That's honestly the only thing I'm worried about the game. Everything else, I mean, it was optimized so well.
Oh yeah, it looked amazing. Like, I started up the game and, like, it just defaulted to, like, low settings, and I didn't even realize it until I looked at the menu, and I was like, wait, this is on low, because it still looks amazing. And then you bump up to higher. I don't remember, ultra was the highest, I think, and it looks even more amazing. But it was still pretty. It's definitely a pretty game, and the gameplay is good. I mean, it's Battlefront. It's new, and it's shiny, and it's optimized, obviously, and it feels good. It really does, and it feels epic, and I think that's the biggest pieces of it.
Another thing I liked about it too, that was a little scary before I played the beta, was that they were going to balance out, like, some games, you know, they're what's the word for it? I guess it's hitboxes, because we're Counter-Strike, but you know, you want to be rewarded for shooting a guy in the head, and you don't want to have to, like, you don't want the Call of Duty, like, you put 3 bullets center mass and the guy dies. Like, you know, that just turns it into just spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
And the game felt like this perfect balance of center mass does damage, but you still gotta, you know, you gotta hit him, you gotta lead him.
Yeah.
It's not super easy, but if you get that headshot too, it makes a big difference. And that, I loved that about it, because I was super afraid that I was just gonna have, like, a heavy laser blaster and come around the corner and just and, like, everything just, you know, gets
Yeah.
destroyed. So that was I like that a lot about it too. It felt like it had just enough personal skill cap there to, you get in a firefight with somebody, you can tell.
Yeah, I think it'll be really nice to see more maps and things like that, and just seeing the scale of it, and obviously how they balance those, because DICE did admit that the Hoth level was unbalanced and that it was way easier for Imperials to win, which makes sense. And we saw that definitely. I mean, I only won a couple times on Rebels as that map, but so I guess balancing things like that, and just seeing how consistent they are with that, though, not just with the initial release. I just dropped it up, but also how they're keeping up with it, like how they're patching and everything like that, will be nice.
One thing that does scare me, which honestly isn't the game, sounds weird, not the game's fault. Like, I think the game is going to be great. I really hate that EA has control over it.
Yeah, I don't like Origin whatsoever. Not even a little bit.
Not even that, but
Oh, yes, which like DLC and things like that, which they've already announced a $50 season pass, which is, for a game like that, for a shooter, is kind of a big deal. However, when you consider things like Destiny and games where you're gonna be replaying, like, okay, so say Borderlands, I'm gonna pay $30 for a season pass. That makes sense, because I'm gonna play each of those DLC things once, maybe twice, and then be done. However, a game like Destiny, or even Battlefront, because Battlefront is a lot of repetitive, like, I'm gonna continue to play it, it kind of makes sense to me to have that. Like, that's in the scope of it, like, that's really not that bad. I guess we have to see what the actual DLC is and how much it really adds, but personally, I don't think that it's that big of a deal. I think if it was like 60 plus, I'd be like, whoa, and definitely 50 is up there.
If it goes the way of Battlefield, since it is DICE, I think 50 is actually a good price point, because I remember I didn't play much Battlefield 4, but Battlefield 3 had a ton of expansions, a ton. And I liked what they did, because when you got the season pass, they showed you everything that would, like, these are the expansions. And you saw, like, a bunch of them. This is what's going to be in each one of them. And paying for the season pass for that was perfectly fine with me, because I got, like, 4 expansions that gave new vehicles, new weapons, new maps. That's fine. If they do that, that's great. I just don't want to see, like, $50 expansion pass, you can get 2 of them, and it adds, like, a map each. It needs
definitely. Like, if I guess we keep going back to Call of Duty, but Call of Duty's expansions or DLC packs are often like one map, and then you get new skins. Like, I hope it's not something like that, where, like, if it's really like meat, like if you get say they add a huge 1 or 2 like huge maps, they add another horde mode map, they add another planet to go single player or co-op on, and they add and then they add more, like another gun or another set of weapons or a power-up or something like that. That would be really cool to see. It's just diversity, and then obviously not the same thing for every DLC. So that would definitely see. I'll just have to see what their actual plans are as far as that goes. So
I was a little disappointed, and this is just me personally nitpicking. I was a little disappointed that there weren't any, I like the card system, but I also kind of would have liked to see some classes. Just, I feel it would have been kind of interesting to see how that changed the gameplay of the maps.
Yeah.
But I also, like the card system, if you want a sniper rifle, you put the sniper card on, and you get, like, a cooldown-based sniper that's, it worked. I liked it.
Yeah.
It's just that I kind of would have liked to have been like, I'm going to be the sniper trooper, and I get to pick from a couple different sniper rifles. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of missing that point. But it's still, I liked it. It's just...
Yeah. I think it'll be kind of cool to see what some of the other cards are, and seeing how, like, what different combinations people come up with and things like that, and seeing how like, depending on the map you want to play, and just everything like that. I think that's probably the coolest thing, is just the combinations. So I can, whereas in the first game, like, you pick something, and then it has what it has, and So you could get the shock rifle with the grenade launcher or whatever. But that was, and then you had a jetpack, and that was it. But like here, you could do a sniper rifle with a jetpack, and then you can have a personal shield or something like that. And like, just seeing like how you can diversify your class so that not everybody's the same. I think that's probably the cool part of that. But definitely, being able to pick classes makes it a lot easier. And then, I don't know.
I guess it just kind of it's kind of a trade-off. Like you don't get that customization that like a Battlefield game had, but you're playing in the Star Wars universe too, so
yeah, yeah, definitely that makes sense. But yeah, so but I'm excited for it for sure, and to be able to hopefully play it when it comes out. So that honestly, it was great. That really was the only complaint I had. 'Cause I just kind of felt like while I was playing it, the only thing that came to mind was like, what if I could be like a medic trooper, and then I'm the one with the personal shield, so I know like that's my job. But at the same time, they probably looked at that and said, nobody's gonna play the medic. But like, you know, in Battlefield, that's what I did. Like I love being the assault rifle medic guy. I see somebody go down, you know, get them up and like that. But, and I wonder if maybe that's kind of their way of trying to separate it from Battlefield. You know what I mean? Like try and do, which apart from the fact that it's Star Wars, but try and do some new things that are different, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be good to see more when it comes out and play more of it. Obviously, I'm pretty excited for it. So yep, anything in the Star Wars IP, I'm up for. So but I don't know if there's anything else that I can think of.
It wasn't the most exciting week for gaming outside of some betas, really.
Right. Yeah. I purchased my Heart of the Storm, or Heart of...
wrong game.
Heroes of the Thorns. Heart of Thorns. Expansion. Last night. I'm pretty excited. It's gonna be fun. I'm really excited for that. My cat's just... Okay, sorry. So, but I mean, let's see that. I don't know. I can't really think of much else. They showed League of Legends. They showed the new harrowing skins, and they look pretty cool. Yeah. The Pantheon one.
New champions.
Oh yeah, new champion came out. Yeah, seems okay. Doesn't seem that fantastic.
He's pretty fun, but I don't jungle.
I do jungle, and I don't really know. I don't know. Like I haven't really seen anyone play her, him, it. It's both, I guess. And just do exceptionally well. So, but we'll see how they balance that. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I could talk about League of Legends all the time, and
yeah, but then we'd just be in the Geek podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure some people do, but not me. I can only talk about it so much before I get annoyed with myself. So. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for this week. Unless you have anything else to add.
Not really. I think that we covered quite a bit.
Cool. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to the ExPack Podcast number 2. If you want to follow us, well, I have Twitter. You don't have Twitter, do you?
Nope.
You don't really use anything.
Nope.
But obviously this will be on YouTube and iTunes. You can follow my YouTube is Spiffyish Games. You do have a YouTube though.
I do.
Which is it Damon Bjorn?
It might be.
I forgot. So my Twitter is also Spiffyish Games. Twitch stream is Spiffyish. Your Twitch stream is Damon Bjorn, that I do know.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, so if you want to keep up to date with what the happy haps with us, it's probably the best ways. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
I'm good.
The super awkward ending is coming to an end. So all right.